A confident and influential voice tone is the jet stream for great ideas, engagement, and listener interest. If you're looking at building up your vocal influence, your personal brand, and executive presence as a leader, founder, or CEO, I want to share with you a few strategies today for how you can overcome shakiness and nervous energy that's manifesting and transferring through your message via changes in your voice tone. My name is Dr. Sarah Lobigaiga de Rodriguez. I'm a vocal coach for executives, CEOs, and emerging leaders. And today I'm going to share with you how I personally corrected and calibrated vocal confidence across all the areas of my professional life, not excluding being a professional opera singer. So this episode will give you a lot of value if you're struggling to get your voice into position reliably, especially for those critical events and moments where it really matters. In my work at Cadenza, I constantly meet clients who will report that their voice works for the most part in all activities, speaking in group conversations, talking to their team, maybe even some leadership activities, providing guidance for the team on hand. But most will identify a critical singular moment or event where the voice unravels and simply doesn't work as one would hope. So this episode will give you a few ideas around why that's occurring, and then we'll look at some solutions you could include. Most people, when they feel nervous, will have some vocal impact, usually in the form of something a bit like a vocal tremor, shakiness, changes in the breathing position, or loss of tone and clarity. So the voice could crack or break, become husky and breathy, and overall lose what sounds to be vocally confident. Across human history, humans have learnt that a strong, powerful voice is a credible voice. It's a signal that indicates that there's something to take seriously in the speaker's message. Now, of course, the content of the message will be the true determinant as to whether the information is critical and viable to listen to, but it all starts with a strong, credible, influential sound. So what we're aiming for is optimal acoustic clarity and power. Interestingly, in the animal kingdom, we know that good tone and vocal power will usually be indicators and triggers of leadership rank in the hierarchy system. For example, gibbons that are the loudest, not the biggest, tend to be the head of the pack. We also know that the ability to send a vocal signal is most likely one of the critical factors that has ensured our survival. We call out in distress to warn the group that we're not safe, or we position our message using our emotional voice tone to build connection and rapport so that we're not excluded from the group, thus protecting our survival. Although we're no longer living in caves, our workplaces are not so different from the ancient origin of humankind, where we descended from the treetops and had to survive on the savannah. And it's for this reason that I often speculate that vocal clarity and acoustic power is not just a social signal, it's very much a signal that's encoded in our DNA. We have acquired the ability to understand the vocal inflection beyond more than we can imagine. Recent research has actually discovered that humans can accurately interpret vocal signals from mammals in the animal kingdom. So this shows us that throughout time, the human ability to understand vocal sound-based information is most likely connected to the reason why Homo sapiens survived. Now, let's take it forward to 2024, or if you're watching this video later, whatever date that is, I think it's still going to be relevant for a few years. Let's take it forward to now. What can we do with our voice to build up the influence so that we can create the connections, the emotional hook points, and position ourselves with the influence that we've been aiming for so that our ideas get sonic support? We're looking for vocal calibration, and vocal calibration will occur across 4 critical sub-areas. The first area will be the mechanical structural skill. So if you're looking to overcome a shaky tone when presenting or in a critical environment, having access to a clear motoric physiological pathway that prepares a good sound is critical. Now, for the most part, you might be happy with how your voice is positioned in areas where you feel socially comfortable and when you're not facing performance pressure or distress. But we all know that if a conflict erupts unexpectedly or if something creates performance anxiety, it's very easy to lose our vocal calibration and control. So what's the solution to that? Well, option one is to exactly know how to calibrate the muscle with the right level of air pressure, sufficient power and symmetry at the muscle. Postural elements will also impact on your ability to calibrate your voice structurally, and also to know how to decompress in the heat of the moment so that your voice doesn't get that feeling of locking up in your throat or like you're about to combust like a pressure cooker, or losing access to your breath so that you just can't even emit a sound in that important boardroom meeting, or failing to project the sound if your ideas are solid, but you just can't get that sound across effectively. These are indicators that you need that structural knowledge. In my experience working with clients and also developing my own voice as a soprano, I know that this skill is your foundation. That's the foundation level. If you can't organize your breath in the heat of the moment, no matter what caused that impact, you won't calibrate. So step number one is to learn the foundations of how the voice works, how your voice works, to be trained in how to organize that instrument mechanically. It's a bit like driving the car. Of course, you can do various maneuvers, but if you don't know how to operate the steering wheel and ease the brake in, you will be jerky and clunky and introduce performance pressure, and it could result in a sonic accident. The second area that would be worthy of consideration is the zone of interpersonal communication and its impact on voice tone. We know that when we're around contacts with whom we feel less vocal comfort, it could be something like a large crowd in the audience. That cluster of people can trigger vocal discomfort, or it could be a significant person at work with whom you have very little rapport and you don't feel self-regulated in their presence, or it might even be interrelating around various types of topics or dealing with various types of people. Emotional contagion spills off into the room. So the emotions, the mood, and the vibe of your contacts around you will rub off onto you. So if you're in a one-on-one conversation and something in the emotional dynamic switches unexpectedly, it's quite likely you may lose vocal calibration, not solely from that structural know-how, the knowledge of how to produce the sound, but very much from the impact of the emotional load, the emotional burden of the room adjusted, and your social intelligence behaviors need to be aligned to position you so that you can self-regulate rapidly with a changing stimuli of an interpersonal nature. But this is where strategies that build up your rhetoric, strategies that build up your ability to command a persuasive, self-regulated, confident and influential message in terms of what is said will provide further security and give you a nice buffer for your tone, because there's nothing like not knowing what to say and then as a result sounding vocally hesitant. So a lot of my clients, when I initially meet them, overlook the fact that elements of vocal shakiness and that trembling quality or changes in breath pressure and breathing comfort can also relate to not just the mechanical skill of how do I use my voice, but the mechanical and interpersonal skill of how do I use my voice when I'm emotionally dysregulated, or if someone triggers me, or there's something in that room that creates performance pressure. This is an area that I work on extensively in executive consulting at Cadenza. So a lot of my clients are in very responsible, powerful positions, but they can identify various zones where their voice isn't aligned as they would hope, and that as a result plummets credibility, executive presence, influence. CEO is delivering a vision presentation and the breath is misaligned for a good sound, the audience will be less receptive. Consider that your body language can alter when you're feeling less confident or comfortable, and that's something that many of us can tactically control because we've got a really good cue of the visual elements. We learn to stand up straight even if we don't feel comfortable. We learn to smile even if we don't feel happy. We learn all these little social cues that we do our best to inflect physically, and it's much easier to target things that are clearly visual that you can see on the other person's face. But when it comes to voice, your voice is in your body, and vocal tone is also an element of body language that can be challenging to master because the voice itself is invisible. We only get that acoustic signal from it, but what you're doing internally, you can't ever actually see and envision and kind of manipulate with your fingers or hands. You don't have any ability to touch your voice, although your voice can touch lives. The third element that you might like to consider if you're wanting to overcome shakiness, a trembling sound, or overall vocal discomfort when communicating, the structural, logical integrity of your message. So if you can plan and coordinate logic in your message, you will feel more self-assured. This is a great approach to prevent things like tangents, vocal trail-offs, off-topic comments, even oversharing. Some of these behaviors result in hesitations that come across with the use of filler words like the thing is, and like, but also what we might call subpar voice tone. There'll be a vocal apology if you know that your information is not well formed or well structured. So this is where the ancient Greeks and Romans were very interested in building up persuasive speaking as it relates to ways of knowing things, the flow of information, and how to position information in a way that catches attention and gains influence with the listener. You always need to have a certain degree of cognitive sophistication to be agile with the flow of your messages. So in my work with clients, I tend to provide a lot of strategies around how do you structure your information spontaneously, because without tools in that area, vocal confidence will not be achievable. For me, vocal mastery in communicating without a script for a video like this has very much come from lots of hard work, lots of scholastic work on how to develop an idea spontaneously. And there are various tools that I would love to show you. The fourth area that I believe most people don't even touch upon is the ability to use the voice with a form of musical or artistic cognition. I work frequently with techpreneurs and visionary startup founders who tend to come from a very solid intellectual basis. They know how to solve a problem. They know how to compute massive reams of code to create what they've visualized in their mind and articulate it into some digital reality. Or they've created this very interesting business concept that's gained mass traction. And the result of this style of thinking on a daily basis across a long period of time at high intensity is usually very strong analytical skills at the expense of creative artistic skills. Now, of course, to create a brand or solve a problem, you need to be creative, but I'm speaking about a different style of creativity, the style of creativity that relates very individually to people who are professionally trained to express something creative through the use of sound and through the use of human vocal sound. So we have a pool of humans that are very agile and skilled and creative in this area. Big CEOs that manage to gain worldwide momentum and interest tend to have this very nice way of delivering their message so that they catch our attention and they set themselves up as memorable, not only for their inventions, but for their personality that's larger than life. And then, of course, actors, singers, performers. This is a form of intellectual capacity that a lot of the world overlooks because we like this analytical style of thinking, which is super beneficial to logical integrity and creating solutions to problems. But there is a lot of merit in vocal artistry, and the ability to use the voice in a way that holds attention. If you're still watching by now, I'm sure there's elements of my voice that really held your attention. And that's through the way the words move in the mouth, the way the speech unfolds over time, the way I vary my intonation, my speed, my pacing, what I'm emphasizing, the emotional color beneath the voice. The voice has up to 24 vocal emotions that are used globally, irrespective of your language background, cultural nuances, and factors like that. And for the most part, many humans just speak with the one tonality, monotone, or the one emotion, dynamic, and not much more. There are so many things you can do with your vocal expression without sounding neurotic that will definitely position your message so that it's much more interesting, and also build rapport, give you the tool to showcase warmth, competence, emotional connection, purely by being able to map out an increased palette of emotions and sounds and tonalities with your voice. That's something that I've committed a lot of time to as an opera singer. It really is the tool that creates a whole canvas of emotions in the sonic soundscape, and this does matter. We do need this at work. We need this tonality more than ever with the increase in automatic systems and artificial intelligence factors and just so much technology. It's very nice to commit your energy and focus to new ways to position your communication message, new ways to create more personality and to humanize your tone so that you reduce repetitiveness. Monotone will always plummet the integrity, competence, and interest of your ideas. So being able to use your voice a bit like an Oscar-winning actor will benefit you immensely in your business, in your career path, and in your people management. So if that's something you'd like to learn about, today I would like to invite you to head to the Cadenza website. We have an entire cache full of articles and resources. What comes to mind in particular, if you'd like to learn more about this topic, is one article that's gained a lot of traction on our website. That article that you should check is called How to Secure a Crystal Clear Voice Tone That Never Fails You. Now, if you're not such a big reader, you might like to watch some related videos. We'll drop them in the description box below. You can also find a few up on the screen that we've linked for your reference, as well as a playlist that should interest you if you're very much at that point where you want to upskill your vocal abilities. Lastly, we have an evergreen on-demand masterclass called How to Look, Sound and Feel Confident at Work. While this class isn't dedicated entirely to voice, there are some important factors that I share with attendees in that class, so you should check that out. You can find it linked in the description box below and also on our website, so make sure you sign up for that masterclass. I think you'll find it super helpful to understand some more vocal parameters that are worthy of note. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you've got questions about how to get your vocal tonality sorted, calibrated and mastered, please drop them in the comments. I like to engage on topics that have been my life's work, and if I can provide you with some supports and ideas, I'd be delighted. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day ahead, and ciao for now.